All right, we are live. Welcome to Ashmont Realty Live. And I'm your host, Adam Ashba. And we got some huge news. The National Association of Realtors just settled that big lawsuit, that multi-billion-dollar lawsuit. They just settled it. We just found out on Friday. So we're going to do a little reactionary video on it about what's going to happen, what kind of changes, if any, are going to be affecting you as a real estate agent as well as consumers. So stay with us right after this.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Well, thanks for watching, guys. This is Adam Ashba, president of Ashmont Realty and instructor at Hondros College. And we're going to talk a little bit about the settlement, the National Association of Realtors settlement that just was announced on Friday. So right before the weekend, they announced the settlement that's been dragging on since 2019. So we're going to do a little reactionary video. So if anyone was a realtor, right? Anyone was a realtor, they woke up on Friday morning and they got this email and video talking about this new settlement that's happened. So we're going to talk about it. I'm going to show the video that was given to me, and we're going to talk about, kind of go through it. Because this, will this affect you as a real estate agent? I've seen so much clickbait about, everything's going to be imploding and real estate agents are going to losing commission. No, it's not going to be like that way. Listen, we're all capitalists. If there's ways around it, I mean, buyers are going to need agents, sellers are going to need agents to sell properties. That's just the way it is. And if you don't want to pay them, then they're not going to do it. So there's always capitalism, and free market will always prevail. There are going to be some changes. I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but the sky's not falling. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and we're going to dive into the actual video that was sent by the National Association of Realtors on Friday. Now, the funny thing is that the New York Times was breaking this story on Friday, and the National Association of Realtors had to get ahead of it a little bit, and they dropped the story on the same day to beat the New York Times, which I think that was a little poopy from the NAR. They should have been a little further ahead of it. But anyhow, we got this. They have agreed to pay $418 million in settlement to settle those lawsuits. Or they're going to talk about what that's going to look like. They're going to pay it over a 4-year period of time. So anyone that can do basic math, that's about $100 million a year. Now, National Association of Realtors is a nonprofit. So how in the heck can they afford that? Well, you'd be surprised. The NAR is one of the most powerful lobbying groups in Washington, D.C. So let's go ahead and let's pull up the video. And we're going to go ahead and we're just going to react to it. We're going to hear now what you're going to, this is the chief legal attorney for Katie Johnson for the National Association of Realtors. So she's going to come on. You'll see Kevin Sears. He's the annual president. The thing with the NAR is there's a lot. It's kind of a poop show. I'm trying to keep it clean for YouTube, but it's really a poop show. Our CEO has stepped down. He was going to retire at the end of 2024. I'm going to show you some of that stuff soon. We have an interim CEO right now. He quit 4 days after the settlement, after that one lawsuit that was settled in right there around October. So he quit. We got a new interim CEO. We have a president that we assign every year. So there's just a lot of instability with it. So it's really, I think that's going to be the demise of the NAR with the lack of leadership right now. And that's where it got us to this point. So let's talk a little bit about this video. I'm going to go ahead and start it. And we're going to go ahead, hit play.
Hello, I'm Katie Johnson, the Chief Legal Officer of the National Association of Realtors. I'm here to share key details of the settlement agreement that would
So
resolve
Katie
nationwide
Johnson's a
claims
chief legal
brought by home sellers
officer.
concerning the
She's on
MLS
payroll.
cooperative
She makes about $1
compensation
million a
model
year.
rule. Like all settlements of class action litigation, it is subject to court approval. First, NAR has secured a broad.
So I think one thing that's important, guys, this is not official. The court hasn't approved this yet. Both parties have, but and attorneys and things, but this is still pending approval by the courts.
Broad release of liability. The agreement would resolve claims against NAR, over 1 million NAR members, all state, territorial, and local Realtor associations, all association-owned MLSs, and all brokerages with an NAR member as a principal that had a residential transaction volume in 2022 of $2 billion or below.
All right. So first things first. So they basically said, listen, we'll settle this lawsuit with you. All right. Litigants, but you can never go back on our members. You can't sue brokers like myself or individual realtors. You can't do that. You know, once we agree to this and the court approves, you got to leave them alone. Now, there are some exceptions, and Katie's going to talk about it here in a second. But that's what she's saying. That, you know, now if you were a brokerage, like, gosh, I wish this was us, guys, but if you were a brokerage, you know, and you sold over $2 billion in real estate, that exempts you from this lawsuit. Now, all the agents under the brokerage are fine. It's the actual entities that own those brokerages. So $2 billion a year or more in real estate. If that's you, broker, then the entity, which most brokerages are LLCs or S corps, if that's the case, then you are not. You are basically not included in this protection of this settlement. So let's go ahead and move on.
In addition, for nearly all brokerages that had a residential transaction volume in 2022 that exceeded $2 billion, and for MLSs not wholly owned realtor associations, NAR has secured in the agreement a mechanism for them to obtain releases efficiently if they so choose. We fought to include all members in the release, but unfortunately, two groups were not included. The release does not include members for any time that they were affiliated with our co-defendant, Home Services of America. The release also does not include employees of the remaining defendants
Okay.
named in the cases covered by this settlement.
All right. Home Services of America is Berkshire Hathaway. They are not protected under this settlement. They are actually still working on their own settlement. There were some other brokerages that were working on settlements separate from this. Some of them already settled. Now, in what the details on that, I'm not sure, but that doesn't pertain to this. So if you're a member of one of those, then you're not exempt under this settlement.
Turning to the second key term of the settlement, we have agreed to pay $418 million over approximately 4 years to resolve what could have ultimately been a judgment of more than $5 billion. Third, we have agreed.
Okay, so 418 million. They got to pay over a 4-year period of time. That's $100 million a year. That seems like an obscene amount of money. Now, the National Association of Realtors, I don't know if a lot of people know this, they're a nonprofit. All nonprofits have to share financials. Now, it's a couple years behind. So we have, and I'm going to share it to you today, we have data on what the NAR grossed and had expense-wise in 2022. You'd be surprised how much they make. You think $100 million a year in fees sounds like a hell of a lot of money, but for what the NAR brings in on and agent fees and example, actually is going to be doable. Now, the key is this. Well, you know who's going to pay for those settlement, don't you? It's a nonprofit. So who do you think is going to be paying these legal fees as well as this settlement, that $100 million a year. You and me, the agents, right? There's 1.5 million real estate agents, realtors in the United States. They have 1.5 million members in the United States. And what I have heard is that all dues are going to go up $100 a year to pay for this settlement. So what does that mean to you? Well, it's going to cost $100 more a year for your NAR dues. So let's go ahead and move on.
Agreed to put in place a new MLS rule prohibiting offers of broker compensation on an MLS. The rule change is expected to go into effect in July of this year.
All right, here's the next issue. Everyone that's part of the board of realtors, no matter what city, state you live in, you have an MLS. That's like our secret weapon, right? For now. Okay, that's the key word, for now. On the MLS, if you're the listing agent, you clearly display at the bottom how much you're going to pay a buyer broker's agent for that transaction. So, for example, if we have a house, that's $100,000 list price, you sell the house, for $100,000. The seller is paying 6% to sell the home. Typically, 3% goes to the selling listing agent. The other 3% is going to the buyer's broker. Okay. So 3 plus 3 is 6. So if the house was sold for $100,000, 6% of $100,000 is $6,000. Now, with this new rule that the National Association of Realtors are coming up with, they're saying that on the MLS, you cannot post how much you're going to be paying a buyer's agent now. Now, a lot of people might be like freaked out, like, oh, that means the buyer's agents aren't getting paid. Guys, back up a little bit. Has anyone in this room sold commercial real estate? Anybody? Anybody put in the comments below if you sold commercial real estate? Most commercial real estate agents aren't members of the board. They're not members of the National Association of Realtors. The National Association of Realtors is just a club. They don't hold our license. They don't make the laws. They're just a club. So guess what? If you've ever sold commercial real estate, if you've ever done that, then you know that when you go look at a piece of property, there is no MLS. There's not an MLS. So you have to ask the listing broker, hey, I have a client that's interested in this property. How much are you going to pay me? How much are you going to pay me in commission? And they'll tell you. A lot of times it's 3%. Sometimes it's more. Sometimes it's less. But you say, listen, no, I want 3%. That's part of the deal. You negotiate it. This has been going on for years. So that, a lot of people are freaking out about that, but we do that already. So don't worry about it. It's going to be an extra step. It's going to be an extra step of the contract, of the negotiation, but it's been going on for years. It goes on today. Just for people who don't deal with the National Association of Realtors. All right, let's move on.
This change will not prevent offers of cooperative compensation off an MLS, and it will not prevent sellers from offering buyer concessions on an MLS. For example, concessions for buyer closing costs.
All right, so let's dive into that. So if you have a listing, and this is going to be up to the listing agent, they're going to have to make sure they keep, educating their sellers. If you have someone who wants to sell their house and you say, listen, I'm going to charge you, it used to be 6%, but I'm going to charge you 3% to sell your home. Okay, now, when a buyer's agent brings a client to look at your home, they're going to need paid too, because buyer's agents don't work for free, right? We know that. Okay, buyer's agents don't work for free. So be prepared. They're going to need 3% commission. So I'm going to get 3, but be prepared. They're going to get 3. Now, you might have sellers that might say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not paying them. Well, that's fine. good luck getting somebody to look at your home. Because if I'm a buyer's agent and you tell me that you're not going to pay me, all right, that sounds like a for sale by owner if I've ever heard one. But if they say, no, I'm not paying a buyer's agent at all during this transaction, then who's going to have to pay for the buyer's agent's time? Well, the buyer would. And then, you got to negotiate that out. And maybe the buyer, I'm sorry, is going to say, listen, I don't have extra money to pay my agent. I will buy your house, but we got to work it in the deal. Again, guys, capitalism always prevails. Idiots don't. Bad decision making, which is all around this, doesn't prevail. Okay. Bad ideas eventually work themselves out. Again, there's going to be a million different ways that this is going to work out and everyone's going to get paid. Don't freak out. It's just a bump in the road.
Fourth, we also agreed to enact a new rule that would require MLS participants working with buyers to enter into written agreements with their buyers. This rule change is also expected to go into effect in July of this year.
All right. Next thing, buyers agreements. We harp on that all the time. When I teach at Honduras College, we talk about buyers. Basically, think of it like a listing agreement, but for the buyer side. Buyer agreements, that's what we call them. There might be other terms for it throughout the United States. But basically, it's saying, hey, listen, buyer, I'm going to represent you. I get paid 3%, just so you know. This is what I do. This is the value that I bring to you. And what that's going to do, that's what the National Association of Realtors are going to say. They're going to have us start signing these. Now, again, the NAR does not make the laws, okay? They're saying in best practice, you do this. Now, if the Ohio Division of Real Estate says you don't need them, then you don't have to have them. But it's always a good idea because you want to make sure your buyer knows that you do need paid. And the seller pays you all the time. They used to, but now it's like opening up for negotiations. Okay. Because every deal, every home that is bought and sold now is going to be negotiating commissions. All right. That's just how it works. But again, if the seller's like, I'm not paying the buyer agent anything, zero, then guess what? I doubt many people are going to look at your house first and foremost. And two, I mean, a lot of buyers aren't going to have an extra 10 grand to pay their agent. It's just not going to happen. So it'll work itself out. It'll work itself out. It's going to be paperwork, but again, when it comes to that buyer agreement, you want to do that. That protects you. That makes sure everyone understands what your job is, that you're representing the buyer. It's always a good idea.
Using brokerage agreements will mandate what we have long encouraged our members to do. Enter into written agreements that help consumers understand exactly what services and value will be provided
I
and for
agree,
how
Katie,
much.
100%.
The decision to settle was not made lightly. Ultimately, NAR entered into this agreement to avoid protracted litigation, obtain the nationwide releases, and preserve consumer choice. As for next steps, this settlement is subject to court approval, which is expected to take several months or longer. We will continue to keep you updated
So
on
right
the
now, guys,
process
it's
and on the
business as
implementation
usual.
of
They're
new
shooting
rules.
for July.
Please
So we
also
might see
check
some
out
change.
competition.realtor. And now
All right. So now
I'll
she's
turn it
just
over to Kevin.
Katie, thank you for that explanation and for the commitment to our association.
so this is the current acting president of the National Association of Realtors. Again, they change them every year. I feel bad for this guy dealing with all this during his turn. So, all right. So let's backtrack out of it. I do want to show you a couple things, okay? Because a lot of people don't care about anything unless there's a shakeup or something. So, the National Association of Realtors said, hey, we're going to pay out $418 million in damages in 4 years. And I was thinking, man, that seems like a lot of money, $100 million a year. So let's pull the curtain back and let's just go over the budget of the National Association of Realtors. Now, remember, the NAR is a non-profit entity. Okay, they are a non-profit entity, and so let's just look at their financials, because when you're nonprofit, you have to show your financials. So I'm going to pull this up right now. All right. Okay, so what we have here, this basically is a breakdown of the NAR and their expenses for the last 10 years. Now remember, it's not, they don't have 2023's numbers, but I want to show you this. This frustrates me a little bit. So this was posted by nowbam.com. Sarah Lentz posted this about a week ago, March 11th, 2024. So we want to give her props on this article. So this is all about the NAR and some of their just issues that we've been having at the NAR. Obviously, we had the lawsuits. We had a sexual harassment allegation. And then we had some people step down from that last year. And so a lot of heat and attention's been going on with the NAR over the last 3 or 4 years. So let's, we're not going to go into that, but let's talk about a little bit about the income. Because remember, $100 million a year we're going to have to be paying out on this settlement. Now, when I say we, you better believe that agents like you and I are going to be paying this. They're going to be increasing our dues. Okay. So let's take a look at this. So Bob Goldberg, he was our old CEO that stepped down. So 4 days after that settlement in October, he stepped down. He was supposed to be retiring at the end of this year. So Bob, he gets paid $2.5 million a year. Now we do have an interim CEO. Can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's acting CEO. I don't know if she's permanent or not. I'm guessing not. So in 2022, the 990 tax document from the NAR said that their total revenue was $328 million. So this nonprofit made $328 million in total revenue. They had $305 million in total expenses, which left them a net income of $22 million in profit. All right. So that, I don't know. So they're only profiting around 22 million. We need an extra 100 a year to cover costs. So guess what? Our dues are going up. It. So this is the kind of the high compensation for the leaders at the NAR. So Bob's out. He was 2.5 million. I don't know what the new CEO makes. That'll be coming out in another year or so. But here's Katie Johnson. We just heard from her. She gets 967,000 a year. Nice. Lawrence Yoon, he's the chief economist. We see him a lot in the financial summit. He's getting 700,000 a year. But there's a lot of people, way in the six-figure range. I feel bad for the presidents. The NAR presidents, they make $400,000 a year. So and then the board, vice president, treasurer, and things like that. So now I think the thing is, which this surprised me, because they don't talk about this a lot. Look at the expenses. So these are some of the top contractor expenses. We paid, as in, you guys as realtors, out of our dues, we paid Havas Marketing Group, Marketing and Communications, $45 million in 2022. $45 million. And then you add this projection presentation technology, video production services. That's some of the videos and stuff. Now, remember the National Association of Realtors, they have a some Hulu show that's having, I don't know, I haven't even seen it. I don't, anyone that's seen it, like, put it below. But you know, so they have that. So I mean, those two is $50 million in marketing. You know, I know that they've done Super Bowl ads. I know that. But let's be honest, guys. Let's just take a quick second here. Let me look right here in the camera. Anyone at home, please put this below. But how many leads has the National Association of Realtors sent you or your brokerage over the last 10 years? Put it down below. Let's just, or 20 years. I mean, if you're in the business that long, I can tell you, I have never received a lead from the National Association of Realtors. All that money we spend on those Super Bowl ads, they're cute and everything, tens of millions of dollars. I think we had 3 last year. I think 3 Super Bowl ads. For what? Did anyone get any leads off of that? Did their business increase because we ran 3 Super Bowl ads? Absolutely not. That's where they're just spending money on these, on things that really, I'm not sure if they need to be spending. I mean, $50 million in 1 year on production costs. So I don't know. I think that was just dumb, just absolutely dumb. I hope they cut back on some of those things so they're not drilling the 1.5 million realtors across the United States, because ultimately, guys, that is who's going to be paying for this lawsuit. You know, we just the leadership has changed so much over the last 3 years, and it's just a mess, to be honest with you. So I wanted to share that with you. And I mean, some other, I guess, some other high points. I mean, obviously legal, there was $4.2 million in legal fees. And oh my God, can you imagine what 2023 is going to look like? You know, marketing consultants, 2.6 million, event management services. So, you know, just different NAR events, 2.5 million. So, you know, that was just in 2022. So take a look at this. It's on nowbam.com. I thought it was very interesting about, like, kind of excessive spending that we've had at the NAR in 2022 itself. So, guys, I hope that helps. I mean, in conclusion, I think, you know, when it comes down to it, is I think the National Association of Realtors, this does not look good on them. The NAR is a group. They're a club that we pay money to join. Okay. They don't make the laws. They don't set the rules. I think I want to make that really clear. I think a lot of agents get hung up on that. They are just a club that we pay to join, that we work together with, that help educate us. But the issue is going to be, as they increase dues to kind of offset some of their mismanagement, I wonder if there's going to be a lot of loyalty and we might go different directions. I think the National Association of Realtors are going to lose some of their members and power. And I hope, guys, everyone out there, that it's not agents that are quitting, because you can be a real estate agent, just not a realtor. So I hope this helps, guys. I really appreciate it. A little long than normal, but we'll keep following up on this. We'll see if anything changes. So remember, just keep plugging away. Business as usual. We'll see some stuff that changes in July. But remember, capitalism always works itself out. So have a great week, guys, and we'll see you all very soon.